guys, do you like Paddington Bear? Then you're going to love this book by Michael Bond, who's also the author of Paddington Bear, which is The Tale of the Castle Mice, illustrated by Emily Sutton. Once upon a time, there was a family of mice who lived in a doll's house. There were 15 of them, Mr. and Mrs. Pug and their 13 children. Their house was owned by a rich earl who lived in a castle. Apart from having one wall missing, it was very grand. Which wall do you think is the one that's missing? This room is a little more wider than the others, so I think it's this room. Or maybe it's here. It's either here or here. That's what I think. There were 2 bathrooms, both with running water. Mr. Pug slept in the larger of the 2 baths, and his wife occupied the other. The children made do on shelves in one or other of the many rooms. Being unusually large, the doll's house was full of nooks and crannies, and could have taken more children, but Mrs. Pug decided to stop at 13. The Pugs rose early every morning and polished the silver, shook the rugs, and swept up after themselves. Afterwards, when lots of visitors came to visit the castle, they disappeared through halls in the wainscoting, and there wasn't one to be seen. Mrs. Pug was a good cook, and she kept a well-stocked larder of leftovers from the castle kitchen, so the mice never went to bed without supper. One way and another, they lived a happy and carefree life. During the long summer evening, they played games on the castle lawn, and in the winter, when it was cold outside, they sat in the lounge and watched television by moonlight. It was a very tiny screen, and the picture never changed, but to help pass the time. Then one day something happened that threatened to change everything. The family woke to a strange smell. "It's paint," said Mr. Pug, who knew about these things. "They must be decorating the castle." And sure enough, when they looked outside, there were ladders everywhere. But there was worse to come. As the days passed, the castle grew more and more inviting. The doll's house began to look so down at heel, no one bothered to take pictures of it anymore. It was even suggested that they should do away with it together. "But they can't do that, Dad," said Mrs. Pug. "Can they?" "Believe me not," said Mr. Pug gloomily. "There's no such thing a word as can't." Evening, Mr. and Mrs. Pug went for a walk. While they were out, one of the children had an idea. "We must do it ourselves," she said. "Get scrubbing, everybody!" They found some washing up liquid, and in no time at all, there were bubbles everywhere. In fact, there were so many bubbles, they soon lost sight of each other. To make matters worse, the paper came off and away from the walls, and soon there were great piles of it everywhere. As it dried out, the glue set hard, trapping some of the smaller Pugs, who began to cry. The sound of their sobbing brought Mr. and Mrs. Pug running, and when they saw the state of their house was in, they could hardly believe their eyes. "What are we going to do now?" asked Pug. "If you ask me, it's a right old mess." "They meant well, Dad," said Mrs. Pug, "so we can't really be cross, but oh dear, I don't know what the owl will say when he sees it." She didn't have long to wait. The very next morning, the owl took one look at the doll's house and ordered it to be removed. "Goodness me," cried Mrs. Pug, "I never thought I would live to see our home being taken away on a lorry." "We shall have to look for another accommodation," said Mr. Pug. "I'd sooner have somewhere to live." said his wife. But the winter coming on, it wasn't easy to find anywhere, and in the end they had to make do with the garden shed belonging to the castle. Christmas was a very sorry affair. Food was scarce, nobody had any presents, and they had to pile on top of each other to keep warm. Then one day in early spring, when they were beginning to think that they would never ever be happy again, the mice heard the shout of cheering and clapping coming from the castle. "Hush, everyone," called Mrs. Perk. "By popular request," said the owl as the visitors arrived, "the doll's house has been restored by some of the best craftsmen in the country. I wouldn't mind living there myself instead of this great castle," he added amid laughter, and as everyone rushed to take pictures. That night, the Perks moved back into their old home and held a grand opening party of their own. Mrs. Perk made a cake, and there were 7 different kinds of cheese. "Just think that," she said when it was all over and the children had gone to bed. "They may be small, but if they hadn't made such a mess of trying to help, this would have never happened." "Good things often come in small parcels, Ma," said Mr. Perk. "And if you ask me, the owl needs us as much as we need him. I think it's high time we went to bed too. Lights out, everyone!" he called. Soon there wasn't a single snore to be heard. The Perks were all as quiet as only a happy mouse could be. That's the end of this book. Don't forget to listen to more stories read by me. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye!